Man picks up a lost dog in pajamas before making a tough decision about its fate. Picking up a lost dog means taking on a lot of responsibility. To find the pooch's owners often requires putting up signs, calling numbers on tags, posting online, and maybe even housing the fellow for a few nights. Making sure the dog and those who love him are happy makes it all worth it. One Takoma, Washington resident pulled over to the side of the road to pick up a lost dog who oddly was wearing a set of blue pajamas. While the man searched diligently for the owner, the dog's curious behavior forced him to make a tough call about the canine's fate. Christopher Goldsmith assumed it would be just another mundane day in Washington. He hopped in his electric blue pickup truck in hopes of carrying on his merry way to work. His drive started out as any other. But the Army veteran and founder of High Ground Veterans was stopped in his tracks when he saw a small animal scamper past his vehicle. Oddly, the animal appeared to be wearing clothes. It was a sight that bewildered him. Chris pulled over and slammed his truck into park, his eyes not leaving what turned out to be a disoriented little dog in powder blue PJs. Upon approaching the pup, it was clear the furball was nervous, but nevertheless interested in Chris's help. A confused Chris picked up the pooch, who turned out to be a docile angel, and brought him to the safety of his truck. The two stared at each other for a moment before Chris whipped up a makeshift leash for the camel-colored dog out of a parachute cord. Hoping to find the dog's owner, Chris let the dog lead the way on an hours-long aimless walk. "We probably walked a mile in circles," Chris said. He didn't seem to recognize any house or make any attempt to run up on anyone's front porch. After a failed mission, they headed back to Chris's truck. When the dog, now more comfortable, nuzzled up to his new hero, Chris knew he had no choice but to take the dog to work. He couldn't deny he was looking forward to having an office buddy. Before taking the dog into the office, Chris called the number on the dog's rabies vaccine tag to see if he could obtain any information on who the lonely mutt must belong to. He found out that the mongrel was just 8 months old and adorably named Frosting. Though the company promised it would contact Frosting's owners, it simply couldn't give Chris any confidential information. So all the duo could do then was wait and tweet. Chris thought that perhaps the internet could help locate Frosting's owner. A cocky Chris was nearly positive that he'd get a speedy Twitter response to his explanatory tweet. But alas, goose egg. He wrote that he'd hold the dog until noon when nearby animal shelters opened their doors. Until then, Frosting would spend the day in Chris's office. Soon enough, Chris realized that Frosting was a very good boy, but a clingy good boy. He wouldn't allow any space between him and Chris, always ecstatically sprawling out on his feet or in his lap, which made work sort of difficult. "I tried to use my standing desk and he would stand up and put his paws on me," Chris said of his new buddy. As it turned out, he and his wife had coincidentally planned to adopt a dog just a month later. "We were looking for a small dog, a dachshund, who would be easy to travel with," Chris said. So as he started thinking about the possibility of nobody coming to claim sweet little Frosting, the more he liked the idea. At the time, Chris was staying at a summer rental property that was strict about its no dogs policy. So Frosting had to spend that first night at Chris's friend's house. Frosting, understandably, did not enjoy being ripped away from his new adopted dad. "This dog is very, very, very bonded with me," Chris explained. "As soon as I left, he was glued to the window, looking to see where I went. And in the morning, he was super excited to see me." Frosting surely didn't understand Chris would only be gone for a few measly hours. Still, Chris had to admit that Frosting's separation anxiety was cute, and that he too missed the pooch that night. Considering their newfound connection, there's no doubt that Chris was more than elated when a week passed without anyone claiming poor Frosting. "My wife is already attached to the dog. She might die of a broken heart if we couldn't keep him," said Christopher. Though he joked about his smitten spouse, he couldn't imagine letting go of his new friend. He dreaded having to return the pooch. The curious case of Frosting was a bizarre one. Where were his owners? Why hadn't anyone contacted Chris? Why was Frosting wearing suspiciously clean pajamas when Chris found him? Though there were questions, Chris no longer cared for the answers. "He's nice, quiet, and well-behaved. Seems like he'll be the perfect office dog," Chris happily said. It looked like the Washington resident and his giddy wife were set on adopting the pupper who seemingly appeared out of thin air. They felt that the name Frosting was still a good fit for the doggo, especially considering the good boy was nearly sweet enough to eat. Together, Chris and his wife bought Frosting a new tag to commemorate his gleeful homecoming. Chris knew the strange encounter with Frosting was a gift, and fate must have had something to do with it. He and his wife never had to go pick out a dog because, in reality, Frosting picked them. Though Frosting was lucky enough to have a run-in with this kind future owner, Christopher Goldsmith, not all dogs are that fortunate. In October of 2016, 2-year-old Black Lab Bandit was brought by his owner to the local animal hospital in Gardner, New York. Soon enough, however, the crafty pooch managed to escape. Bandit's family searched far and wide for their beloved pup, all to no avail. The woods where he'd escaped were impossibly deep, and the chances of locating him there dwindled by the day. Bandit's family couldn't stand the thought of him being lost in the woods all alone, and without any previously learned survival skills, managing to live from day to day would be far from easy for the young dog. As the months dragged on, a few pedestrians mentioned seeing a lone black dog wandering in the woods, but no one was ever able to track him down or find out if he was okay. That all changed, however, in March of 2018. A concerned motorist spotted a dog that looked an awful lot like Bandit and managed to get close enough to see if he was still wearing his tags. Clearly, the stray needed help, whoever it was, so the person called Nicole Asher of Buddha Dog Rescue and Recovery. After receiving the call, Nicole knew she had to act fast, especially since she figured the dog was going to retreat back into the woods. "We went up and set a trap and surveillance camera in the woods immediately," she explained of her plan. "When I heard he was wearing a collar, I couldn't wait to find out who he really was and where he came from. I was hopeful we could reunite him with his family," Nicole added. Would she be able to find Bandit? With the help of her DIY surveillance system, Nicole managed to track the pup for the next few days. She even brought a variety of toys, bones, and food for him to eat. Still, he didn't fall for her trap. Growing frustrated with the lack of success in capturing the dog, Nicole decided to place a fenced enclosure in the woods, put treats in it, and wait for him to waltz inside. Would her crazy plan actually work? At first, the dog seemed a bit put off by the appearance of the new trap. He was very skittish, so everything new we'd introduced to his area would spook him, Nicole remembered. Thankfully, that was about to change. After about 5 days, the stray finally seemed to be comfortable with the enclosure. Slowly but surely, he began inching his way through the doorway, though never fully entering it. Watching his antics on video were a constant source of amusement, Nicole recalled. He'd chase the critters away from his enclosure, play with toys that we left for him, and do his little playful dance in front of the enclosure. Whenever any other animals showed an interest in his food, the pup was quick to scare them off. He'd stand there barking with his chest puffed out and tail high. He was always so proud that he chased them off. You could tell he was such a character, Nicole said. As March was drawing to a close, Nicole began to fear that the dog would never enter the enclosure completely. Then, just when hope was nearly lost, he decided to walk right inside. Her plan had worked. At that, Nicole rushed into the woods as quickly as possible. She was incredibly anxious to meet him in person for the first time. When she arrived, she took one look at his collar and called his owners to let them know she'd found him. Lo and behold, it was Bandit. Unfortunately, Bandit's family claimed they were no longer able to take care of him. Their lifestyle had changed and they just couldn't take him, Nicole mentioned. They surrendered him to us right away. Apparently, this wasn't the first time he'd ran away for a long period of time either. Bandit was taken in by a partner of Nicole's rescue called Ramapo Bergen Animal Refuge in Oakland, New Jersey. Aside from a tick-borne illness, the veterinarian there was shocked to find that he didn't appear to be underweight or malnourished at all. In fact, he was a totally healthy weight, something they attributed to him choosing to live in a section of the woods where hunters often left scraps of meat. Still, everything wasn't perfect, as Bandit remained very skittish. Despite his being uncomfortable around humans, the veterinarians still had high hopes that Bandit would start to warm up to them, especially since Nicole mentioned how playful he'd been in the woods. "You can tell that he's a silly, lovable boy on the inside," Nicole explained. "His story's amazing, and I think he's given a ton of people hope who have lost dogs out there. They're very resilient and smarter than we give them credit for."